Ask Perez, and welcome to RT Essentials. Today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, Scream Queens. AKA final girls, or the more accurate but less catchy influential women in the horror genre. Yeah, doesn't quite roll off the tongue. But as long as scary movies have been around, there have been iconic female characters to rival that of any monster. But as the genre evolved, so did its leading ladies, frequently becoming a bigger presence than the monsters themselves. And today we are going to celebrate these actresses who chew gum, kick butt, and take names, as long as those names aren't Beetlejuice or Candyman. As always, the spoiler alert is in effect, and now let's get to the queens of the screen. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
What's the trouble?
That's him! Behind you! Behind you!
It's weird to think of Sarah Michelle Gellar as a Scream Queen. After all, she's most recognizable as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Buff wasn't much of a screamer, more like a kick butt and take nameser. But for anyone of a certain age, the 90s were a veritable Gellar-sance. Between Scream 2, The Grudge, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and 2 Scooby-Doos, the actress became the ascendant queen of final slayers. Only 19 years old when Buffy premiered in 1997, Gellar was already on her way to being an industry pro. The year prior to filming Buffy, she won a Daytime Emmy for her role in All My Children. And she'd also been a competitive figure skater, a black belt in Taekwondo, and a 4.0 GPA student. Meanwhile, I spent my late teens ruining my hair with drugstore hair dye. It's healthy now. Yet Sarah Michelle didn't have enough time to literally do it all. She actually turned down Jordana Brewster's roles in The Faculty and The Fast and the Furious, and passed on starring in a movie version of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She wasn't even originally up for Buffy Summers. Instead, she was brought to read for Mean Girl Cordelia. So yeah, that's what a variant timeline looks like.
Need a hand?
No thanks. I'm good.
Gellar's work ethic was the stuff of legends. She was the only actor to appear in all 145 episodes of Buffy, and spent her downtime on the sets of other films. She didn't even attend the wrap party for Buffy because she was too busy filming Scooby-Doo. And if you thought Buffy Summers was hardcore, she had nothing on Gellar, who performed all her own stunts and worked through a broken hand while training for Buffy.
The whole time I was in that house, something was wrong.
While filming The Grudge, the actress developed an allergy to the water in Japan that was so bad, the crew had to actually tape garbage bags on her legs while filming the iconic shower scene. Sigourney Weaver. Nobody broke the final girl mold harder than Sigourney Weaver did when she stepped in Ellen Ripley's gigantic xenomorph-kicking space boots for Ridley Scott's 1979 Alien. Not content to be just a living legend in one genre, Weaver spent a career crossing streams from horror to sci-fi, from the Alien franchise to Ghostbusters, Cabin in the Woods, Galaxy Quest, The Village, Paul, and WALL-E. Though, for my money, her biggest horror sci-fi film to date is Avatar, a David Cronenberg-esque body horror where humans become aliens and use their sentient hairports to plug in directly to space dragons. So gross. But before there were Na'vi, there was just space aliens in Ripley, a character who had originally been written for a leading man. Gender swapping the lead paid off for both the Alien franchise and Weaver, who earned her first Oscar for reprising Ripley for the sequel Aliens in 1986. Now, this was a huge deal, as horror is still only rarely recognized by the Academy. Along with Sissy Spacek, Linda Blair, Glenn Close, and Jodie Foster, Weaver is only one of 14 women who have ever earned an Oscar nomination for a horror movie. Now, for my money, there are few stories as tailored for legendary movie trivia status as Weaver's athletic prowess on the set of Alien Resurrection. The scene called for the Ripley clone to sink a basketball into the hoop over her shoulder from half court while walking in the opposite direction, planned to achieve with trick editing. Instead, Weaver actually sinks the basket during her first take, which was almost ruined by co-star Ron Perlman's goofy reaction witnessing the once-in-a-lifetime dunk.
Something of a predator, isn't she?
He is Vigo. I don't care who he is. You're not gonna take my baby.
Now, to nab the role of Dana, the love interest in Ghostbusters, the Stanford and Yale graduate school alum stood up on the couch mid-audition and began acting like a dog. Director Ivan Reitman decided on the spot to offer her the part. Writer Dan Aykroyd was considering making the character an actress, model, or alien. It was Weaver's idea for Dana to be a musician. Heather Langenkamp.
Come to Freddy.
In 1984, Heather Langenkamp appeared in Nightmare on Elm Street as Nancy, the final girl of the first Freddy Krueger movie. It was a role she beat out 200 other women for and was chosen by Wes Craven specifically for her non-Hollywood girl next door look. True to form, the final audition took place on Friday the 13th of January 1984.
This is just a dream. He isn't real. He isn't real.
She took to the role of Nancy so well that Craven enlisted her for 2 sequels. 1987's Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3 Dream Warriors, and 1994's New Nightmare, a meta-horror film where she starred as a fictionalized version of herself being terrorized by an all-too IRL Freddy.
Miss me?
In fact, New Nightmare was based on Langenkamp's experience with an irate stalker, angered that her TV show was canceled. Guess he wasn't happy she wasn't welcome to primetime. Though Langenkamp is best known to us forever as Nancy, you can also find her cameoing in horror thrillers like Truth or Dare, Hellraiser Judgment, The Demolitionist, and Shocker. She's also appeared in American Horror Story Freak Show, and along with her husband, Langenkamp has worked in makeup and special effects for gory flicks like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, Dead Silence, and Cabin in the Woods.
I'm crazy after all.
Lupita Nyong'o.
The girl had a second child, a boy this time. They had to cut her open and take him from her belly. The shadow had to do it all.
If you thought it was hard for horror actresses to get nominated for Oscars, try convincing an Oscar winner that their next role should be in a scary movie. But if you're gonna do it, go the Lupita Nyong'o route, because by starring in Us, Jordan Peele's 2019 follow-up film after the critical and commercial darling that was Get Out, the addition of 12 Years a Slave star may have surprised people, but considering Peele's Get Out was one of only 6 horror films to ever be nominated for Best Picture, Lupita's donning of those golden garden shears makes more sense. If you've seen Us, you probably can't unsee or hear Lupita's deep, raspy voice as the leader of the Tethered.
Don't burn our house down.
A group of subterranean doppelgangers who live in the tunnels that run underneath the country, forced to mimic the actions of their luckier twins who happen to be born above ground. In fact, Lupita based the character's voice and spastic mannerisms on Robert Kennedy Jr. To promote the film, Lupita showed up on the set of Stephen Colbert's Late Show with yellow contacts. Did either of her characters in the film have yellow eyes? No, but seriously, who cares? I mean, we admire her full tilt commitment to going method weird.
Super fun time on our trip.
I want you all in the line in front of me and away we go.
Why are we stopping?
Must be something in the way.
Stop the tractor! Are you okay?
Yes!
But besides Us, Lupita also starred in the 2019 zombie flick Little Monsters with Josh Gad. Not to be confused with the 80s Fred Savage, Howie Mandel family-friendly creature feature. But right on the heels of Us and Black Panther, the actress was instrumental in securing the rights to Taylor Swift's Shake It Off to the low-budget Australian indie about a kid's summer camp overrun with zombies. Now, after trying to reach Taylor's reps with no success, director Abe Forsyth shared his vision with his star, who immediately emailed Taylor Swift and had the pop star agree to lend her hit to the film. Vera Farmiga. When Vera Farmiga signed on in 2013 to play self-proclaimed medium Lorraine Warren in James Wan's The Conjuring, nobody knew how much she'd sign up for. I mean, she's now at the helm of the second highest grossing horror franchise of all time, with an extended universe to rival that of the Avengers. Now, 8 films with a combined budget of $125 million? Eat your heart out, James Blum. The Conjuring films, which includes The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona, and all the Annabelle movies, was a minor public relations miracle. The ghost hunting duo was infamous for courting tabloids, but in the hands of Farmiga and co-star Patrick Wilson, they are the Catholic Church equivalent of the Avengers.
By the power of God, I condemn you back to hell!
This is your daughter! You can't give in!
Farmiga, in particular, took her role very seriously, traveling to the Warrens' house to speak to Lorraine so she could, and I quote, absorb her essence. Gross.
You liked it.
Nonetheless, The Orphan and Bates Motel star is the biggest subscriber to the Warren lore. I mean, Farmiga frequently talks about how filming The Conjuring has led to some pretty spooky real-life incidents. She's been haunted by the appearance of mysterious claw marks everywhere, from her computer screen to her skin to toilet paper. I mean, weird place for ghosts to make themselves known, but when you gotta go, I guess. And in case you're wondering, no, the character of Lorraine Warren isn't supposed to be related to the character of Sister Irene in the spin-off The Nun. But the two have more in common than just Valak, a demonic entity taking the form of Mother Superior. Sister Irene is played by none other than Taissa Farmiga, Vera's younger sister by 21 years. In total, there are 7 Farmiga siblings, which, by the Conjuring logic, makes them prime potential possessees. Lynn Shay. Horror is a young person's game. I mean, you've got to be pretty limber to outrun a slasher or survive being thrown out a window, you know what I mean? But it's also a genre where the rules were made to be broken. Enter Lynn Shay. Now, you may have seen Lynn in any one of her 140 plus credits over the past 40 years in roles like teacher from Nightmare on Elm Street,
I'll call your mother.
or nurse from New Nightmare,
Time for your medicine, cowboy.
or Magda in There's Something About Mary. Remember Magda? Shay's most recognizable role, though, for modern audiences is Elise Rayner, a psychic medium who helps the Lambert family from James Wan and Lee Whannell's Insidious franchise. Now, Rayner is actually the only actor to return for all 3 sequels, taking an increasingly central role in the series, despite, and spoilers here, the character was actually killed off at the end of the first film. Don't ask me how it works, folks. I am just stating the facts. So even without Insidious, Shay's got an impressive resume of 27 horror movies backing up her claim of Grand Dame of the Scream Queens. 2001 Maniacs, Critters, Amityville New Generation, The Running Man, Ouija, and The Grudge, just to name a few. In 2015, she was given the title Godmother of Horror at Wizard World Comic Con. Though it may be unsurprising because Shay is horror royalty. Her brother is New Line Cinema founder Bob Shay. So one of her earliest roles was in Nightmare on Elm Street as Nancy's teacher. As she told Entertainment Weekly, Bob's exact quote to Wes Craven as a condition to New Line financing the film was, "Put my sister in the movie."
A demon who seeks Dalton's body for one reason: to cause pain to others.
Sarah Paulson. In 2011, Ryan Murphy cast Broadway actress Sarah Paulson in a small role as psychic Billie Dean Howard in his debut season of American Horror Story. She's played a total of 13 characters across 8 titles of the anthology series. Paulson has quickly become one of the most prolific actresses in Hollywood, and despite 2020's dearth of new content, she starred in the Hulu-acquired horror thriller Run, playing the overbearing mother of a teenager.
I'm your mom. It's my job to take care of you when you need me.
And she also headlined Murphy's Ratched.
What are you gonna do about it? What are you, deaf?
No. Just thinking of all the things I'm going to do about it.
The limited series on Netflix, based very loosely on the antagonist from Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Although she's a frequent collaborator with Murphy, who originally hired her for a small role on Nip Tuck, Paulson's big break actually came from another horror legend. So in 1996, she played the older sister to Lucas Black in American Gothic, a short-lived CBS horror series. Canceled after only one season, the Forgotten series paved the way for Paulson's ascendancy to TV's reigning scream queen. Paulson also started getting cred behind the scenes, directing an episode of the seemingly prescient season American Horror Story Apocalypse, which must be how Murphy retained his leading lady after she was named one of Time Magazine's most influential people in the world.
It's all coming true, but none of it is possible with you here. I'm begging you.
Count backwards from 100.
I was having the most beautiful dream. For me, it was a nightmare.
Betty Gabriel. You didn't even need to have seen Jordan Peele's first movie to be shook by Betty Gabriel's performance as Georgina, the black maid of the Armitages in Get Out. The trailers for the film framed her in alarming close-up, repeating, "Oh no," into the camera with a glazed smile and a single tear falling down her face.
No.
I'm pretty sure there are people who haven't even seen Get Out who have nightmares thanks to Gabriel's hypnotic and terrifying performance, and that's gotta be a world record. I mean, 2 words and we're scared for life? Even Frankenstein's monster said a few more than that. And even though she was only in a few scenes of the film, Gabriel was on her way to becoming a horror icon. So in 2016, a year before she would officially get out, the actress got involved with influential Hollywood horror disruptor Blumhouse Productions when she starred in Purge Election Year, playing a reformed murder marauder and officially solidifying herself as a staple in the pantheon of scary movies that doubled as social commentary. Purge marked just the first of 6 collaborations between Gabriel and Jason Blum. That year, she co-starred in Blumhouse horror miniseries 12 Angry Days before nabbing the role of Georgina. And 1 year later, she pulled double duty in Unfriended Dark Web as a woman whose friend group is being stalked by cyber criminals, and as a detective who suspects Logan Marshall Green of murdering the bionically enhanced thugs who killed his wife in Lee Wennell's directorial debut, Upgrade.
I'm sorry.
Now, if Gabriel looks familiar but you haven't seen any of these films, which by the way, you totally should, just ask yourself, did you sign up for CBS All Access at any point in 2019 and happen to catch a particularly meta episode of Jordan Peele's new Twilight Zone? So Gabriel cameoed as herself alongside Seth Rogen in the season finale, Blurry Man.
Seriously, what's going on?
Bae Doona. South Korean actress Bae Doona, who actually got her start in 1999's The Ring Virus, a Korean remake of the original Japanese film, got her big break when she teamed up with director Park Chan-wook in 2002 for his ultra-violent Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, the first installment of his Vengeance trilogy, which would go on to include Oldboy and Lady Vengeance. Just lots of vengeance with that guy. Doona played the daughter of an electronics factory worker who was kidnapped by a deaf-mute employee, desperate to raise money for his sister's kidney surgery. Things do not go as planned. The hyper-gruesome violence of the story freaked Doona out, so Park would have her eat food during her early scenes. But Doona got over her squeamishness, next working with Bong Joon-ho in 2006 for his creature feature, The Host. Now, unfortunately for the actress, the movie involved a 40-foot-tall monster lizard called Gwemul that abducts Doona's character and carts her off from her family, ending in a climactic battle as she dangled from its tail above a bridge. We say unfortunately since Doona suffers from acrophobia, also known as a fear of heights. Now, The Host was an immediate smash, making box office history as the highest-grossing South Korean film of all time. Doona had her pick of projects, but continued working in the realm of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. You can find her in the Wachowskis' Cloud Atlas, playing at least 4 characters, and in Sense8, which the Matrix siblings produced. Also on Netflix, you can find her in a show called The Kingdom, a South Korean political horror thriller, which honestly is a genre I didn't know I needed in my life until now. Toni Collette.
Why are you scaring me?
Make it stop! Make it stop! Make it stop! Please stop!
At what point did Toni Collette become the face of horror? Was it back in 1999 when she played Haley Joel Osment's mom in The Sixth Sense and earned herself one of those coveted Oscar nominations in the genre? Or was it in 2018 when she starred in Hereditary, a film so disturbing that it turned its distributor into a name synonymous with art house terror? Now, here's the thing. In a filmography that spans 80 roles in 2 decades, Collette's only been in a total of 5 horror movies: The Sixth Sense, 2011's Fright Night, Krampus, Hereditary, and Velvet Buzzsaw. In fact, Collette's made it very clear that she's actually not a fan of the genre, saying in multiple interviews that she's too petrified to watch her own films. So, how does a scaredy cat end up in 2 of the most influential horror movies of their decades? Chalk it up to her poor reading habits. Now listen to this. Having only read the script scene that she planned to audition with, Collette almost passed on The Sixth Sense because she didn't want to do a formulaic Hollywood action movie. She only found out she'd been in a horror film after its release. She'd been so focused on hitting the emotional beats in her scenes that she actually missed the part where her son was seeing dead people. LOL. From then on, Collette made sure to read the scripts more closely, of course, and thankfully it paid off in one of the most acclaimed performances of her career as Annie Graham, the matriarch of a family haunted by metaphorical and then quite literal demons in Ari Aster's Hereditary.
Just say it. Just say it. Don't you swear at me, you little. Don't you ever raise your voice at me. I am your mother. Do you understand?
It was a role she'd originally been reluctant to take, but reading the script, she realized it was more a complex exploration of the nature of grief and loss than it was about kill counts and jump scares. Hereditary became A24's biggest box office earner to date, and love it or hate it, and she probably hates it, Collette will now forever be associated as the indie horror's biggest mom.
Louis, are you okay? Are you in pain?
Neve Campbell.
Then why don't you show your face, you coward?
My pleasure.
In 1996, a little movie came out by the name of Scream and forever changed how we think about horror movies. Bucking the archetypes of teens in scary movies, the characters in Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson's meta-slasher were smart, self-referential, and very much aware of the rules of the genre.
Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
You creep. Star Neve Campbell became the face of the franchise as Sidney Prescott, a cool-headed brunette with nerves of steel and a knack for attracting stalkers who love murder and movie trivia in equal amounts. But long before she was old enough to find out if she liked scary movies, the Canadian actress starred in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Ray, you gotta get me out of here! I can't! Ray, help me!
A scary story anthology show for kids that aired on Nickelodeon's original Saturday night Snick lineup that may or may not have been the theme of my 14th birthday. Now, her first movie role was also in a horror film called The Dark, which my sources are telling me was about a giant rat, and I don't want to know anything more.
Arnold, run back to your car!
What the was that thing?
Now, if you were around for the 90s, and it's crazy that some of you weren't, you might remember Campbell from her role in The Craft, after director Andrew Fleming apparently thought, yeah, she could play a Catholic schoolgirl peer pressured into joining a super goth coven. It was originally Drew Barrymore who was cast as Sydney in Scream, but due to schedule conflicts, had to make the smaller role of Casey Becker. Neve was originally hesitant to take on another big horror film, I'm sensing a trend here, but accepted it for the opportunity to have a starring role and work with legendary filmmaker filmmaker Wes Craven. Neve didn't want to come back for a fifth Scream movie without Craven, who died in 2015. But she was swayed by a handwritten note from the film's directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, in which they admitted that they had become filmmakers after being inspired by the work of her and Craven in Scream.
Give Mommy a kiss and we'll make up.
Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, what can you say about Jamie Lee Curtis, aka Laurie Strode, the bane of Michael Myers' existence in the Halloween franchise? Her feature film debut was, in fact, John Carpenter's 1978 iconic slasher film, which has spanned over 40 years, 11 movies, not including the 2 upcoming installments from director David Gordon Green, and countless comics, novels, video games, and Hollywood Horror Night appearances. Carpenter's decision to cast an unknown to star in his film might have struck some people as strange, but it was actually a tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, one of Carpenter's biggest idols. Janet Leigh, who starred in Hitchcock's Psycho, is Curtis's mother. In fact, Jamie might have made her first film way earlier in life when she was in talks to appear in Psycho 2. It never materialized. Curtis would get the chance to share the screen with her mother, first in 1980 with John Carpenter's The Fog, and again in Halloween H2O.
Oh, damn it! Oh, Miss Tate, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you jump.
Now, it's nice when parents can share a bonding experience with their kids, like running away from serial killers or murders missed. After Halloween, Curtis became the reigning Scream Queen of the 1980s. Her next big film, Prom Night, couldn't even get financed until she signed on for it. Though Curtis left the Halloween franchise after Halloween 2, she expressed interest in H2O after it had already been bought by the studio. So writer Kevin Williamson was brought in to rehaul the story to center on Laurie Strode and her college-age son. Though she had no plans to return to the franchise a third time, she was convinced by her godson, Jake Gyllenhaal, to take a meeting with director David Gordon Green. And the rest, as they say, is horror movie history.
You want your mask? Come and get it!
I'm coming for you, Michael.
Well, friends, that is it for our list of essential women in horror. If you want to check out more scary movies or just like your movie news in listicle form, keep it here on RT Essentials. My name is Naz Perez, and I am here to tell you to keep it spooky.